All right, so we are live. So we'll go around and say our names. I'm Ashley Kraft.
I'm Haley Cloward.
I'm Erin Malone.
All right.
Oh, you know what I think the echo might be from? One of you don't have these things, headphones? I'm sorry, I don't know who's Haley and who's the other.
I can plug my headphones in and see if that helps.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just because I keep hearing my own voice double back at me.
Did that help? Try talking.
Let's see. Yes, that helped.
Oh, okay, perfect. That's weird, because I wasn't hearing an echo from myself, so I didn't think it was a problem.
I was just like hearing myself say the same words, but like 1 second later, and it was so annoying.
Turn that volume down. All right. Okay, so now we're good. All right. So we'll just kind of go through the 11 questions. And I'm going to do the timer so I know how long we're doing this for.
Okay.
All right.
Are we live?
Okay. What?
Are we live already?
We are live, yeah. We already said our names, and yeah, we're good to go.
Okay. Just checking. Sorry.
Yeah. It's in the corner, so we're good. So the first question is, what doctrine in Wilbur's heart drove him to advocate? Why is the doctrine of the family so important to have in your heart to be passionate and persistent? So I guess we'll do the first half of it. What doctrine in Wilbur's heart drove him to advocate? Do we all just want to go around and say what we came up with, or?
Sure, I think that'll be easiest.
Yeah. So for mine, I came up with, first, all men are created equal. I think he really believed that race shouldn't be, the race shouldn't divide men. He was very passionate about religion. He believed that God loves all men. I think he believed that God loved all people, regardless of their race or their nationality, and he knew that God loved them because he felt that God wanted him to take up this cause in the first place. He believed that the family is of God, and he saw enslaving women and children as horrifying and really wrong, and he believed that families should be allowed to live together and to be free and happy. He believed that each life has value. He was definitely, horrified at what he saw happening to these human lives around him, and so he definitely thought that each one of them was extremely valuable. He also believed that violence is morally wrong. I mean, you could see he was like an emotional wreck after hearing or witnessing certain things, and so he was definitely incredibly kind and very against violence, even to animals. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. So I think a lot of what happened with hold on, I'm pulling up the questions right now. Okay, so a lot of what happened, I think, had a lot to do with that priest or whoever it was. Do you guys remember that priest?
Yeah.
Guy, bishop,
the one
or whatever?
That wrote Amazing Grace?
Yeah. So you could tell in that video that they had a previous relationship. That it sounded as though the bishop had been there for him and possibly even partially raised him. And because, sorry, my roommates are packing and moving, and they just kicked me out of my room. So I just have to go somewhere else. But anyway, so I think a lot of what brought him to advocate, what drove him that way was how his relationship with that bishop. That bishop had a lot to do with his own values and brought him there. So, are we just doing the first part of the question right now?
Yeah, just the first part.
Okay, yeah. And so, just like that, he didn't believe in, or he believed in human equality. he didn't believe that blacks were any less than the whites. And he believed in fair treatment of all mankind. And so because of his, I think, relationship with that bishop, who used to be involved in that, I don't know if it was in the slave trade exactly that the bishop used to be involved. It was, okay. Yeah, because I don't have my paper out with me right now. But anyway, so it definitely had a lot of influence from the bishop.
Nice.
So for mine, I think I had a lot of the same stuff as Ashley. Like I had like all men are equal, is what he believed in, and like he believes he could make a better world, and like we're all made the same, and God sees us in the same light. And you know he believed that slavery was wrong, like he talked about. He would have like the really physical reactions after seeing something that was that he didn't like or didn't believe in. And then, he talked a lot about how the slaves were not weren't treated right. They weren't treated like real human beings. They were treated unfairly. And being like, he's like, they live in boxes. They had very little room, very little resources, or even, good. They didn't provide for them. They were treated even worse than animals, I would say. And he was just like horrified that the slaves were being killed and left to die or to rot and die. And yeah, that's what I had for the first part.
Nice. And then for the second part, it says, why is the doctrine of the family so important to have in your heart, to be passionate and persistent? She worded these questions kind of strange. I think she left out a word there, but
yeah.
But basically just why is it so important to have it in your heart?
So for this one, I kind of, sorry, I hope you don't mind if I start.
Oh, no, go for it, yeah.
So I, had that, I kind of made it more metaphorical where, in our hearts are, obviously a vital organ and it pumps blood to the rest of our bodies. So I said, when the doctrine of the family is important to our heart because when something is like that is deep in our heart, then I like to think, it runs through our veins or, to the rest of our body. And that's what runs our passion, and that's what, makes us, gives us a call to action kind of thing. And being persistent, I said, was like a character of action. And so it's good to be passionate, but it's better to, follow that up with action and with that persistence, like she mentions in the question. And you need to be able to act to make things happen, and I think that's what Wilbur did. He knew that the men were equal, and so when God found him, then he saw that they were all even more, that they were all the same, and so he wanted to make a better world where there wasn't slaves anymore. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I thought he was a good example of persistence.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love that metaphor that you came up with. That's really cool. That's definitely true. For mine, I talked... Oh.
No, go ahead.
Are you sure?
It doesn't matter.
It's so hard to tell. Sorry. So I just put the doctrine of the family is important because it's a foundation for societal norms, and if we don't believe that the family is ordained of God, then, or if we do believe that the family is ordained of God, then we believe that slavery is wrong. And I think they had kind of a skewed view of family, or they wouldn't have been enslaving, women and children. If people have love for their families, they're going to have love for one another. Family teaches us, kindness and love and honor and all these wonderful things. So if we take away or destroy the family, we're destroying our society. In the movie he talked about helping people find their conscience, and I think that's really what the family helps with, is if we take away the family, we're taking away sympathy because of the love that's found in a family. So that's why we need to be passionate and persistent, like Wilbur. I like that you said that he was a really good example of that, because he was like, this dude did not give up, and that was awesome. he really was there to soften people's hearts and to change the world. So that was really cool. I like that guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I got that. So I think the family is where you first learn empathy and sympathy, and I think that is what will help you become passionate and persistent towards advocating for any type of cause, really, for any individual or group of people, and because it helps you to understand, or at least come closer to understanding their perspective and their point of view, and it'll help you become passionate. And because you're passionate, then you become persistent. So I find that having the doctrine of the family in your heart is what's really going to drive you and help you understand the plight of that individual or group that you're advocating for.
That's awesome. I like that you talked about being passionate leading up to being persistent. I never really thought about it like that, but it's totally true.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Think of it this way: if you're passionate about working out, you're going to be persistent. You're going to go to the gym every day. But if you're not passionate about working out and you just want the results, but you hate working out, the chances are you're not really going to really work out, and so you're not going to be persistent. You're going to be consistent, and so on and so forth. So
it's true.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Really?
That's what I was thinking.
We do. Okay, thank you. No, you're fine. Fine. Sorry. He's like, do we need toothpaste? I'm like, yes, we do. So the second question is, how did Wilbur employ Bronfenbrenner's theoretical approach to become a more effective advocate? Identify at least one thing in each system and be specific. So we'll probably just go around and start with each system. Like, we'll each do mesosystem, and then we'll each do microsystem, and I think that'll probably be easier.
Yeah. Sounds good.
This was like the hardest question for me to answer. I don't know why it was so difficult, but for microsystems,
there's so much to cover.
No, seriously. And I think I don't understand some of the systems as well as I should. But for microsystem, I talked about how Wilbur relates to people at their level. So, he reached out to families, which is one of the microsystems, by explaining to them, the pain of slaveries that other families had to endure. He reached out to his peers. He led marches and petitions and gave speeches in neighborhoods or in the community. He reached out to religious institutions for help in spreading his message. Like, there was that scene with one of the clergymen trying to give a talk, and everyone was kind of leaving because it was all about, anti-slave trade. But he kind of just reached out to everyone that he could. Used the whole microsystem. Who wants to go next?
Next.
I think I think one of the bigger things that he used was his intellect, his wit, in those debates. And I think that people had a lot of. So the cool thing is, prior to this specific thing he was advocating for, abolishing the slave trade, he had won several debates in the past and was renowned in that community, and specifically those within that group of people, and were respected. And he was respected, and he was knowledgeable. And I think becoming knowledgeable, little tangent, I think becoming very knowledgeable and well known in the community you're trying to advocate in is incredibly important, so that you can advocate efficiently and effectively. But anyways, that was a little snippet. That's something I particularly liked about him, is how he carried himself about, and he had this well, I don't know what you call it now. I can't remember the word. But basically, he was known for being intelligent and winning.
Yeah. He had what do you call that? They knew him that way. He had that status per se, or I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so he used wit he was quick. He was quick on his feet in debate, and he was able to like intelligently explain and like support his own ideas as while refuting their ideas, or maybe not refuting their ideas, but their position. So
Yeah, I like what you said. That was really good. I just put like how he began his efforts like on a smaller scale with his own peer group. Like he had that, I can't remember the guy's first name, but Pitt, his best friend
Yeah.
became the prime minister, whatever. He like invited those people over that one night, and I felt like he didn't even know who they were. He's like, who are these people? But anyway, he got to know them, and that became his small little peer group of advocates, that was on his side. So they would hold meetings together and figure out how to branch out further with their skills. And then I don't know, the people that brought him in, I didn't know if that was like a family member or just a friend, but they were like, oh, we brought you here, we're going to take care of you since you're not well, kind of thing. And so he had them to kind of talk things over with. And then eventually yeah, that's kind of what I thought. I think they might have been brothers, but I wasn't entirely sure.
I think they were cousins, it said.
yeah,
okay,
cousins.
that makes sense. But anyway, and then like the girl that they introduce him to later, like she becomes part of. I mean, she's not exactly in the group, but she's there to support him anyway. So
She really helped sustain him. I think
yeah,
she helped give him drive, and definitely aided in his ability to effectively advocate for the cause. So
yeah.
Definitely. All right. Do you want to go to mesosystem?
Sure.
Okay. So for that, I talked about the connection between community and family. So he knew that people were affected by where they grew up and in what condition. And in his community especially, like people were really prone to fear. That's why they weren't acting, on any feelings they might have had that were against the slave trade. So he went through his community trying to inspire families and trying to change the way that they felt about this issue, because he knew that they were scared. They had a lot, invested in the slave trade, a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to change their minds.
yeah. One of the things he did to connect the individuals to the cause was when the time that they took them all of the, well, I don't know if they were the bourgeoisie or anything, but like the higher class society. He took them on this boat and secretly docked them, or not docked them, but like parallel this slave trade boat, and they had the chains hanging over the side of the boat and everything, and they really played to their what was that, Legos, or no, I don't know, whatever.
Oh
really
yeah.
really played to those emotions, and had it smell. Remember that smell. Take your handkerchiefs away and remember that smell. And so he really played to their emotions. So.
Yeah, for sure. That was like that part to me. I was like, yeah, stick it in your face. Anyway, oh, I keep losing my paper. Okay, so I just said like, I think you guys kind of said the similar thing. So I just said like the peer group, and then I said like the government in his community. Like I thought maybe they went well together, since he would, they'd meet in that group, and then he'd bring those thoughts then to the meetings that he would go to, and then they would, address them there, and then they'd banter back and forth or whatever. And anyway, yeah.
And then macro system. I don't know if I was confused on this one. But I talked about Great Britain being the macro system, and how, Wilbur took his advocacy straight to the government, and he tried to change things at the highest possible level.
Yeah. So I think when they talked about how, oh, you're going to betray your country and side with America, and so that's kind of the macro system. That's I think, am I correct? Yeah. I had to pull up Bronfenbrenner's model to
Yeah.
remember which one was which.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, so yeah, they took it political, but yeah, there's not much to be said in that. I think the majority of what
Yeah.
he did was had to do with the micro and meso system, particularly individuals and groups.
Yeah, I think I just kind of said, like, I don't know, I guess I wasn't really exactly sure, but I said I would include where he was from. I think he was from London, wasn't he, originally?
I think so.
And so I just thought, you know, since he had that culture, you know, it was a part of him. And then I thought maybe like some of his religious beliefs that he kind of got later on in the movie. Like he didn't subscribe to anything in particular just because everyone thought he would be a better, you know, he could make more of a difference being a politician than he could being, you know, a religious person. But I think his, you know, his beliefs made a big impact on the way he began to advocate and destroy the slave trade.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that part in the movie when that woman asks him, you know, I think she says to him, like, I know you're struggling between serving God or serving our cause, and she's like, I suggest you do both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was funny because my husband watched the movie with me, and so like right before that scene, I was like, well, why don't you just do both? And she was like, I suggest you do both, and he's like, oh, you called it. I was like, yeah.
Nice. He's like, have you watched this before?
Yeah.
And then for the exosystem, I put down that Wilbur saw a connection between Parliament's approval of slave trade and the average man's acceptance of it. So he knew that if he could get Parliament to make it illegal, that more men and women would join his cause to outlaw slavery, and they would, you know, finally have their eyes opened. I think that there was a lot of control of the government there on the way that people thought and what they believed. You know, that if the government said it's okay, then it's okay.
Yeah. That's kind of what I put. I just put, like, you know, government, the Parliament themselves, were a system outside of his group and played a major role in the way he was advocating. And, like, if you knew they could fight against the slave trade, then, you know, he was influencing people there inside of Parliament, you know. If there's anyone that maybe was sitting on the bench on the issue, then, you know, that's maybe someone else he could get on his side, so he knew that it was important what he said in those meetings and how he said it even.
Yeah. I don't really have anything for the exosystem other than, you know, well, not really, because I don't think I broke it down that way. But I mean, exosystem. So that's the committee, councils, programs of study, educational administration. So that's basically just their little debate team that they get going. It's not a debate team, but you know, it's their little council that they have going together. So, you know, just all of the debates they had. He really drove it home there. So.
Yeah. And then for the chrono system, I put that the politics in the country needed to be changed. So he wanted a transition. Oh, sorry. There was a transition from laws that were about freedom to laws that approved slavery, and that was something that needed to be overturned. So he went through the political system to achieve victory.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You said Peno system? That's not part of
system?
Is that part of Bronfenbrenner's? Because there's only macro, exo, meso, and micro.
I think like when you, I don't know if you guys have the book. I'm taking Faml430 as well, and so in the book it breaks it down and goes to chrono system. I don't.
Yeah, it goes to chrono system in our readings as well.
Okay. Yes, you're right. I see it.
That's okay. Yeah, I think for that one, like I don't know. I was like, at that point, I was like, I feel like I've already like covered anything. What else is there? But so
Yeah, I
like
don't.
I mentioned like his religious beliefs before, but then I thought, well, maybe because that was a big change for him. I'm not sure he ever really thought about religion previous to, and then he was like, what? I just want to sit in the grass and look at the spider webs and the trees. And so I was like, well, that's different. That was a big change for him. So that's kind of what I talked about. But
Sounds like he just needed a meditation time, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
time to ponder.
Yeah, we didn't have to hit on all of the systems. It just says to identify at least one thing in each. Oh, no, it does. I'm sorry. At least
Yeah.
one thing in each system and be specific. I'm sorry, you're right.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, you're good. Did you want to add anything, Erin, or did you want us to?
No, I think we've
No?
covered all of that.
Okay, awesome.
There's not much more you can add to that.
Yeah.
So number 3 said, how did Wilbur and his fellow advocates do and share their research? What evidence did they provide to persuade those opposing or on the fence? So I guess we'll start with the first one. How did they do and share their research? And I
They
just
act. Oh.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, they actively pursued evidence for against the slave trade. So they personally went out and sought out signatures as well for the abolition, and they collected evidence against it and the proof of how inhumane it was. So they did it in person. And how did they? Oh, okay. So yeah, and they shared their research in debates. They produced the signatures and they produced the evidence there.
Yeah, exactly. It was perfect. I think it just kind of covered everything.
Yeah. There's not a lot to each question.
Yeah, no, it's true. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think I like the way that they went about it. I think they, really tried hard to to come up with, everything that they could. They interviewed people and they sought out people and, undertook going to real places and, I mean, like there was like that letter from Jamaica. I mean, that's, pretty far away, but that was something that he wanted and that he was still invested in those things. So he was definitely trying to collect all the research that he could.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only thing that I'd add is that like you guys have been saying, he went and sought out people, and so he got a lot of first-person accounts of what was going on the slave ships and stuff like that, and what else did I put? Oh, and just the petition that had like 390,000 signatures, and but then what was the other thing I was gonna say? They Oh, not. Oh, yeah. They got like the little diagrams or whatever and pictures of the living conditions type thing, and would share that. And I think that maybe went along with the petition. I don't know. I can't remember for sure. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's great.
That was not very organized.
Remember when that one, he kind of looked crazy to me. I don't remember his name now. But that one guy took out the shackles and showed. So these are for the feet. These are for the hands. This right here, and claps it on his own neck. So that's another thing. He showed. That's how he shared his research to get Wilbur on board.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And not only that, but like he published his memoir to help people understand like, what he had been through and what others were still suffering through. And, like the pastor did the same thing. I don't remember his name, so we're just going to call him Pastor. But, he created his memoir at the end of his life for them to use, and he really wanted them to be able to have this evidence, even though it was, pretty condemning evidence for him, even though it wasn't illegal, it was, morally damning, the things that he had done. And so it's not something you'd really want out in the air, you know, like this is what I did, but
Right.
he was really, you know, drawn to the cause and making things right with God. And then I thought it was interesting that like some people were like, oh, it made me so mad. That guy that everybody hates that was in the debates that was like super awful.
Yeah.
Like he like read an account of like, oh, you know, slaves are living like royalty, they're living better than we are, and all this crap. And
Yeah.
you know, I think that exposing true conditions was a way that he saw to kind of throw that out the window, and so that you know other people on the court would see how false it was, because it was
Yeah.
wrong. And then, does anyone else want to add anything?
Yeah, I think the only other thing I had was what we talked about earlier was when he brought, those people onto the ship and they, could smell the stench of death and saw the chains. And so I think that maybe was part of his research too. And the women were, like starting to cry like, oh my gosh, like that's real. And yeah, it doesn't get more real than that, people.
Yeah, he
And
really
like how he
shook a
said
lot.
there was, yeah, oh yeah. And especially when he said like, there were 600 slaves on the ship, they only unloaded 200 of them or whatever the numbers were. But
Yeah.
crazy.
Definitely.
I'm pretty sure we covered that one.
All right. So number 4 was, how does the film portray the importance of working together as a group? And what has family advocacy group work taught you? We'll save the second one for a little later. But the first one, how does it portray the importance of working together as a group? Does anyone want to start?
Yeah. Well, obviously you can't, especially when it comes to votes, you can't do everything on your own. You have to have unity. You have to have numbers. The more numbers you have, the more change you can create. And with something as big as abolishing slavery, especially how big and important it was for all of those invested in it, and a lot of people were making money out of that. And in order to change something that has been going on for a long time and was creating cheaper product, which meant their revenue was higher. It was necessary to have that many. What was it, 300 and some odd thousand signatures, and then just as many people as he could to help him with the research and everything, because individually, you can't get things done, especially on a larger scale like that. So,
no, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what we really just took away from it, was that he couldn't have done this alone, And not only did he have the support of his friends, but he knew how to network, and so did his friends. Like, he was networking to find all kinds of people. His friends were networking for him, like Pitt, the prime minister, he was bringing people in, and there were just, there was like that guy at the end. I don't even know where they found him, but they came up with the idea of passing that law with raising the flags and having the inspections and stuff. So they were small, but they were a really strong force because everybody really contributed. So like the prime minister gave their cause power, and Wilbur gave it a voice. Equiano provided like a heart and a story, and Thomas Clarkson, the whole time I'm like, what is this guy doing? I couldn't really understand what his role in the movie was, and so I looked him up, and he was a really intelligent man, and he was kind of in charge of, collecting the signatures and doing all the petition work and the,
behind the
that
scenes.
kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly, like more behind the scenes. And so, they all had a different role to play, but when they came together, they were really powerful, obviously, because they won.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I kind of said a lot of the same things. It's like you can't do it alone. So, many hands make light work, and as well as when you put different people together, everybody has has their own experiences, has their own talents or skills, and so it helps to have people with differences like that, and so you can pull in other people. Like you said, he was really good at networking, which I totally agree with, and but I just think it helps too to have those different skills, and so then everyone can play a part and have their individual role within the group. And I thought it was, cool that he had Equiano, on his side. And, I mean, that's a powerful message right there, someone who experienced it all. And,
At the end, it was so epic when he signed.
yeah.
When he what?
Was Equiano, wait, who was the one that was the older gentleman that signed the petition at the very end, like in
yeah.
I don't know what his name was. Equiano was the black man that had been
The black, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. I can't remember the names.
Yeah,
that's okay. I can't either. Equiano's like the only one and Wilbur are the only two I really remember, and Pitt, I guess. But other than that, I'm like, I don't remember names.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a cool part too, though, because I was totally like, okay, yes, I'm signing. It was awesome.
Yeah, everyone's all booing for him. We're all cheering for him.
Yeah.
And then it says, what has family advocacy group work taught you? I don't know about you guys, but I have not enjoyed my family advocacy group work.
Oh, yeah.
Was she addressing the question to like our actual groups in our class?
I don't know. I took it more like what I related it to is how we did, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe when we did the blog or Facebook page or whatever, on making the group. That's what I related it to. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
I mean, all it's asking.
My group is pretty good.
I think all she's asking is like, what has this class taught us? Like, what is family advocacy group work? Well, I guess group work taught you, but I think the biggest thing that it's taught me is of like how much research you need to do to adequately advocate for your cause. That and how much time it takes. Especially like when you're trying to go to a large scale, how to get things passed and everything. So in the process. So that's what I took away from it. It's just I learned a lot of the process and the time it takes to get it all done. To actually create it into policy or law. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. With that also, I think, the professionalism that you have to, attempt to achieve. Yeah, so like I was saying, like I just related it to the Facebook page, and I don't know, my group was really good. I really enjoyed my group. I thought we did a pretty good job. And so it was just nice. Yeah, it was kind of hard, but I don't know, for us it pretty much worked out because we each said, okay, we're going to split this up like right from the get-go, and which made it nice because I thought, that was exactly what we just talked about with the last question, with Wilbur and his group, he can't do it all himself, so he would divide the work, and so that's kind of what we did, we said, okay, who wants to take which section of the project, and so we just kind of did it that way and then communicated throughout the week about what we had done or whatever, and it worked, I don't know. So that was nice.
What was so hard for me is like almost all of my groups, we all had different time constraints, schedules.
Yeah.
So trying to meet and trying to like get things decided on and stuff was so hard.
That's always the struggle.
There was never a week in which my entire group that was supposed to meet together met all together. We ended up having it like split up.
Never.
Never once did we meet as a whole group. Because it's really hard. Like, when you're taking an online class, it's normally because your schedule is completely off.
So true.
To meet in an actual class. But, so, anyway, that's all I wanted to say. When it came to another thing that sucked, my computer's charger stopped charging
no.
right before the Facebook one. And so I had to send in my computer into the computer lab to get fixed, which meant like I could only like look at like things on my phone. So that was like kind of frustrating.
That's really hard.
Yeah, so like I basically had to do all of like my share of the work like last minute because I got my computer back at the end of the week and I was like, okay, sorry guys, my computer. But
oh man, that's tough. Yeah, I think that week we didn't even, like, they said we didn't have to meet officially, so we just decided we're just going to chat through the discussion board, and so that was a lot easier, because I think, it's been tough every week. It's like, hello, we take online so that we don't have to meet with people. Sorry.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I understand meeting a few times throughout the semester to do different projects, but
Yeah,
this was
sure.
every single week, and that was so hard to fit in.
Yeah, it was.
But I learned a lot. The one thing that I did learn from family advocacy group work wasn't from this class. Well, I mean, not from doing it with classmates, but I really enjoyed that
Yeah.
book that we read. How do you remember what it's called now? You guys remember that book we read?
Which one?
Sacred
About the
Duty.
guy that, yeah, Sacred Duty, exactly,
Oh.
Sacred Duty. And he had all these people with him, and they were a group and they were advocating and how powerful they were together. It's the same
Yeah.
thing like in Amazing Grace that, when you work as a team, you can make a difference, but can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest
That's a
thing,
good point.
time. Having the time is probably the biggest thing in advocacy.
It's so true.
Yeah. That's why you got to be passionate about it, like they said.
Yep.
If you love it, you'll make time for it.
Exactly.
It's like family history.
Yeah, exactly.
I never seem to have time for that.
Yeah, me either. And my husband and I were teachers in our ward for like a year. And did I do it? No, I did it maybe a little bit more. I'd look at my, the tree a little bit more, but
That's really hard to do, though, too. So.
Yeah.
And then the next
Anyway,
question
sorry,
is...
that was a...
No.
You guys, we're only a third of the way into our time.
We only have 50 more minutes.
Oh, I think I started my time watch later.
Oh, mine says 40 minutes.
Okay, we're at 40. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're halfway done.
Yeah, we're not bad.
Okay.
So, what parallels do you see between Wilbur and Captain Moroni and Alma 46? And then we'll go through the rest of the question because it's like all these different questions.
Yeah.
So what
oh, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay. I was just say they're both, strong, great leaders, unwilling to back down from what they believed, and I kind of related the title of Liberty and the petition as the different ways that they had something to document their beliefs, and like they both fought corruption within the government, and they both were advocating for the better cause to help families.
Definitely. Yeah, and they were both working. What?
Yeah, both passionate.
They were both passionate. I think those are the two biggest parallels, in my opinion, or it's the biggest parallel in my opinion. Is how the belief, the strong belief they had in their cause.
Yeah.
But sorry, go on.
Definitely. And I feel like they were both. Well, I mean, obviously, they were both working for God. And that was their motivator. And, Moroni's title, it says, "In memory of our God, our religion, our freedom, our peace, our wives, our children." And honestly, Wilbur's could say the exact same thing. That's all of what he's fighting for. Just trying to preserve freedom and abolish evil. And then the next question is, I was so confused by this question. It says, what is a Christian and professional family advocate, and how did Wilbur exemplify that? Does she mean, what's a Christian advocate, and then what's a family advocate, or is she, putting them together?
That's how I took it. I separated them, because, it didn't make sense to me.
Okay, I put them together. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. I was like, I think that she just messed up maybe and meant to separate them. I don't know. I separated them, so whatever.
No, either way.
Made more sense that way.
Sorry, I had to, what did I just do? What did I just do?
I don't know. I can still hear you, if that helps.
Can you guys still see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I clicked something wrong. I had to put my food away. My roommate just flagged me, so I'm back. So we're on what is a Christian and professional family advocate. Is that what we're on?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. I think a Christian and professional family advocate, they exemplify God, I think, and they're very family oriented. So, and how did Wilbur exemplify that? Well, I think advocating for, the African American society, I think that definitely uplifts the family and definitely plays up what God's plan is.
Hmm. Yeah. I just did like I said before, I separated them, so I took it like a professional, or I guess I did Christian first. I said, they put their beliefs and value systems into their advocating, which a professional would too. But I said they base their efforts on those morals and beliefs, and like it's more, and they do it in such a way that they feel is pleasing unto God. And I said maybe a professional advocate maybe is not necessarily doesn't necessarily have a religious background, so they would maybe base their moral stance more with evidence, or scientific research and different research studies, to advocate for their cause. So maybe it'd be more like how would you say it, like I guess more worldly based things, whereas maybe a Christian would base it more off of God's standards. But I think they both could. You could put them together like you guys did. I thought you guys did a good job with that. How they both have those things and are very family oriented, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I basically just said what you guys said. That he was a really good lawyer and he was really talented, and that he kind of took that talent that God had given him and he multiplied it and, became really the best that he could be, because he was a man of God, and, he tried to, do what God wanted him to do. And he tried to just be, a Christ-like example and an example of goodness and kindness. I was always really impressed with how he never, people would be saying these awful and really untrue things, and he wouldn't call them names or yell at them. I mean, he raised his voice because everybody was raising their voice, but he was just really good at toning that back and keeping it focused on his cause and
the issues. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a good example of that. And there's a part in the film where William Pitts talks about, he says the principles of Christianity lead to action, and I thought he was, a really good example of that he knew what was right and he took action to, make righteous things popular. Like we said before, trying to help people find their compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the last part says, how can you be effective and Christ-like against such loud and often degrading voices?
I think the biggest thing, and I already said this, but is to be educated and intelligent about the way you go about it. I think the more intelligent you are, the less loud you have to be. I think the more intelligent you are, the less work. Not the less work you have to do, but I think the more effective you can be.
That's a really good point. I actually really like that. That's very true.
Yeah. I think I kind of said a similar thing, with the intelligence. I said, base the what I'm advocating for, base my thoughts on Christ's doctrine, but then make it to put into worldly vocabulary kind of thing. Use the language of the world to describe, correct principles as best I can, and but like Wilbur was, hold your tongue when necessary, and but still, speak up against things that you feel are wrong. So.
Yeah. No, definitely. I just kind of talked about the same thing, just that, keeping love is like the root of your cause. You don't have to agree with anything that everyone else is saying, but if you at least show forth that love, then that will help your cause. You want to be soft. Soft but firm.
Yeah.
And then number 6 says, Marsha Barlow spoke on persuasive speaking and writing. Did Wilbur and others exemplify any of Marsha's ideas? How so? I had to go back and look at her speech. I was like, I don't even remember.
Yeah, I did too. I had to go back and look at my notes. So I think
I'm not gonna lie.
Touched on this one. Go ahead.
But
Oh, I didn't finish my paper yet, so.
That's
you're
okay.
good. I just talked about what a fantastic public speaker he was. He was, super persuasive because he tried to talk to people at their level. Like, when people would combat him and try to be really, mean to him, he would make jokes, and then the whole room would be laughing and everyone would be comfortable again. And, and he told stories. But one of his strongest suits was connecting with people in the audience. He knew that a lot of people in the room, in the political room, had connections to slave trade, either directly or they just benefited from it in some way. And instead of condemning their actions, there's a scene that I really like, and he stands up and he says, I know that many of my honorable friends in this house have interests in the Indies. Others may have investments in plantations, others are ship owners, and I believe them to be men of humanity. I believe you all to be men of humanity. So, he's kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt, even though a lot of them are just really awful people, like, honestly. They were just gross people, and, he knew that treating them with respect and kindness was kind of like the right and the winning thing to do.
Yeah, I think I wasn't entirely sure, and so I just I was like, I remember the story of self, the story of other, and the call to action was what I used, and so I said, he kind of applied that, but I said I couldn't remember if he actually told stories, but yeah, you're totally right, he totally did. But so I just kind of said maybe he told stories more in a physical way, and using his actions, and so let's see, what did I put? So I said for the story itself, it was just the way he began his path of advocacy, and it's his own story kind of thing, and then for the story of other was how he showed what we talked about earlier that I keep mentioning. Sorry if it's annoying, but when he took the people on the boat and had them see the slave trade for themselves, and then the call to action when he had the petition, and yeah, I guess that's kind of what I said. I don't know.
No, that's really good. And when I said telling stories, I think I was remembering him talking to the people on the ship. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably more demonstration than it is telling stories. That's what I put it
It works either way.
Yeah. Like I said, I haven't finished my paper, so I haven't gotten to this far. And I don't exactly remember much about Marsha Barlow and her persuasive speaking and writing. But he used, if I'm correct, she said something about using facts and statistics. Is that something she said?
No, definitely.
Yeah, that's
because he definitely brought that stuff out, and using statistics and facts and research, and not just he was able to back himself up. He was also someone of note. He already had a history with them as someone who is intelligent and debates well, and usually, well, maybe not usually wins, but at least often wins. And so I think he is backed up by that. So he's backed up by the research he's done, the facts that he brings out, as well as his history with people. So that's just what I would connect, if that's what I recall correctly for Marsha Barlow. Then
Yeah.
that's what I'll put for number 6.
No, that's great. And then number 7 says, what role did the government, policy, and religious freedom play in the fight of the slave trade? The first of 2 questions. So it said you have to like answer them all separately. So like, what did the government do? What did policy do? And then what did religious freedom do? Should we just talk about the government first?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Okay. So I just talked about how the government was his biggest obstacle. The problem was that like a lot of the laws were being passed by these, biased, prejudiced, gross old men, who voted, just based on bribery a lot of the time. It definitely wasn't a room full of honest men, and the votes were insincere, and, he knew that if he could win over the government, like, he had it made,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just said, the government was just made up of people who supported the policies, and like they hired the privateers to go and prey on the slave trade vessels, and yeah, I think that's all I put really for the government. I kind of did government and policy together.
Oh, okay. Do you want to go over policy too, and we'll just do that?
Sure. So I just, policy, I just said was, those who then enacted and put the rules into place and enforced them. And they were the ones that made the laws. And it seemed like the policy wasn't exactly against the slave trade, but then the government like kind of interpreted it that way. And yeah, okay, yeah, that was what I put for policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there was
So government, I feel government is the game they have to play. They have to play according to the government's rules in order to pass the policy that they're trying to pass. Policies, in this, I don't remember what the policies were in place that made it difficult to pass the abolition. But policies they have to advocate for to abolish the slavery trade. So I think one thing that they did was create that flag policy or whatever for the boats, and that helped in beating around the bush type of way of making it at least significantly more difficult for the slave trade to happen.
Mm-hmm.
No, definitely. I think I just said kind of the same thing, that, Parliament only wanted to pass bills that, went with the flow. So they knew they needed to, get crafty if they wanted to win. So like you said, they did the, flag policy, and then it was good.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. And then what role did religious freedom play? That was kind of a hard one. I feel like this class has like been really, I hope it's this class. When you take so many classes on the family at the same time, they all kind of blend together.
They all mesh. Yep.
Yeah. No, it's true. But like focusing on religious freedom and how it plays into family advocacy, and I don't know, that's been kind of hard for me to connect the two. But I just talked about how his relationship with God inspired him to take on the cause, and so religion was kind of at the heart of the issue, and because they had, religious freedom, they could lecture in churches, and they could get advice from clergymen, which he did.
Religious freedom, they were allowed to practice whatever religion they believed. Luckily, for most, they believed in Christianity, and Christianity preaches about equality of men in the sight of God. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah. I was going to say that's like
the connection I was looking for.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is that because they believed, and the majority of them believed, that that everyone was equal in the sight of God, then that's, I think, one of their biggest selling points. Like, if they didn't have that belief, they didn't have the freedom to believe that, then I think that I don't think they would have been able to get where they got. I don't think they would have been able to make the abolition of slavery happen. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that one I wasn't entirely sure like what she was trying to refer to as like did she want something like specifically from the movie or so I was just said well maybe that I'm not sure that the slaves had that because they were slaves so I was like that's probably something that they looked forward to is they wanted to have that freedom of religion and to practice what they believed or whatever.
Definitely. And then this was kind of an obvious question, but did you see their political system being pro-family? And I think the general consensus would be that it's definitely not pro-family. I think
Yeah.
any system that's going to openly and gladly support enslaving women and children isn't really for the family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the only way that it could maybe be seen as pro-family is, they're protecting their families by keeping their slaves and they're becoming, like, they're reliant on their slave to take care of their family. And so without their slave, they're not, their family's going to be, like, in dismay or whatever, disarray. It's like that's like the only thing I could possibly think of, but even that like doesn't really make sense.
Well, no, it would be true from their perspective, but I think as far as like being completely pro-family, like as a whole.
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely said that it wasn't, but I was like, well, if you
but
wanted
that's a good
to
point,
try,
because they probably did think that they were pro-family. If you would ask, those people, they'd probably been like, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Look at it from their perspective.
Yeah. Political system being pro-family, all of them had families, so, and they were all, I believe they were all Christian. I couldn't tell you if they were all Christian. And so being Christian means you're pro-family, for the most part, so.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Should we go to number 8?
Sure.
Okay. It says, do you feel that Wilbur used his time on Earth well? How did you see him showing the elements of consecration that Elder Christofferson spoke of?
Yes, I think he used his time well on Earth.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
I mean,
making me feel like I'm not doing anything with my life.
Right.
He basically, in his lifetime, not only did he pass like the abolition of slavery in Europe, but he, advocated and passed laws on proper treatment of animals, as well as like millions of other things. It sounds as though he passed several different laws and policies that were positive, that made a positive impact.
No, definitely. The true advocate.
Yeah. So from Elder Christofferson's talk, I just went back and like kind of looked at it a little bit, and like he talked about the 5 elements of a consecrated life. So he talked about like purity, work, respect for one's physical body, service, and integrity. And so then I just related that to Wilbur, and I just thought, well, yeah, he demonstrated most of those really well. I say he was pure to his cause and really worked hard in his efforts for fighting against the slave trade. And with respect to his body, I was like, well, yeah, he was as far as he, as much as he could. He was sick, so he had to take care of himself that way. So I guess, it wasn't disrespect necessarily, but I just know he struggled with things like that. But and then he gave service to the community by becoming part of the government, when back in the beginning, when they, like we talked about earlier, they said you could make more of a difference being, part of the government. And so he knew his morals and values, and he stood by him the whole time, and he never wavered. So.
Absolutely. I did the same thing you did. I just kind of broke it down as far as Elder Christofferson's talk and talked about the different sections. So, his life was a life of labor, like you said. He consecrated his time and his talents to, the righteous causes that he felt inspired to fight for. Like you said, there was, animal cruelty, and it had like a whole list at the end, and I can't think of anything. It was it poverty and education, or I don't know, a
Yeah.
bunch of amazing things.
That's right. Yeah.
And then he just, tried hard to labor for those that didn't have a voice. He was that voice for them. He lived a life of integrity. He tried really hard to, give up his vices, and he was a really honest man. Like there's that part where he, has to give up his medication, which is really hard for him. He does it because, he wants to have that integrity and to give up the things that are kind of, using him rather than him using them anymore. And, his life was a life of love. He served others and fought for what, their cause was because he loved them. So definitely a consecrated life.
Oh, yeah. One of the better time. I don't know. He used his time well. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, honestly, everything you guys have said is covered most of it. And remember the time he fed all those homeless people? I mean,
Yeah.
I think he only intended to feed one person, and then he walks in and he's like, there's a lot of them here.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a big advocate of spreading the wealth. So, that's consecration right there.
Yeah. For sure.
Trying to make things equal.
Definitely. Right, we only have a few questions left. It says, for number 9, any other profound thoughts or personal insights from the movie that are related to child and family advocacy?
I mean, I've said it 3 times now. Education. Educate yourself, become intelligent, learn how to debate, I think, is incredibly important. I'm a terrible debater. I can write a paper like that. I can write a research paper. I can research and I can, write an essay. But when it comes to face-to-face debate, I get frazzled. So I wish I could be quick, quick with my words. Yeah, I think the biggest thing to take is become intelligent and educate yourself on each topic you want to advocate for. So that's what I mostly took from this.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I definitely need to brush up on my debating skills.
Yeah. I think wit is an important part of debating, too.
Yeah. And he definitely had that. He was so quick with his comebacks. I was like, man,
yeah,
he's so good at that.
Very, very quick-witted. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's attractive in a man.
It is. Yeah.
In a human, really. Anyone, really. Like, oh, that was cool. You got right on that.
Yeah.
Nice. As far as insights I took away, let's see, there's one scene in the film that I thought was interesting where, they're having that card game at the very beginning, and he, the one guy, tries to trade his slave as part of the cards. As part of the winnings or whatever, and he gets super upset, and then Pitt finds him and he says, "You act as if you've never seen slavery before," and he replies, "For me it's like arsenic. Every new tiny dose doubles the effect." And that really, taught me that you shouldn't be desensitized to the immoral things around you, The world right now, they're trying to disprove the need for traditional families, and, there's this new normal everywhere. And was it in this class that we talked about, Modern Family and Glee in one of our discussion boards? Was that this class or was that another class?
I don't know. That sounds really familiar. So yeah. I don't know.
Maybe we're taking the same classes.
Yeah.
But, there's just these, even just television shows that are really popular among, even Mormons that really, what's the word I'm looking for? They just really normalize, gay relationships and kind of bolstered it up as this really great thing. And as soon as we see it as normal, then our cause and our belief in it is weakened. And so it's important to always look at it and see that that's not right,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was necessarily the best example of that, but just that there are a lot of immoral things in this world, and it's so easy to become desensitized because it is everywhere. So you definitely need to keep just keep an eye open and you know, make sure you're still feeling that that's wrong.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I just found like 3 different quotes throughout the movie that I really liked and kind of talked about them and how they related to advocacy. So like the first one was when Wilbur said like, no matter how loud you shout, you can't drown out the voice of the people. That was when he had the petition and he like rolled it out and he was like, it was like right there, and he's like, they will be heard. and and so it's like the world has a lot of degrading voices today, like what you were saying, and so we need to stand up for those unrighteous things, and like it says in the scripture, that so do it with the sound of a trump. And so it's like, well, you can't drown that out, in power in numbers. And the second one I had was, I don't remember the guy's name, someone in the government, and they were saying, let not this great ship of state be overturned by a wave of good intentions. And I just thought that was interesting. It's like, what? It's like, it's coming in a big wave, but then it's just going to die down or whatever. So I guess they wanted to kind of get rid of it, the slave trade, gradually, but it's like, no, we just want to get rid of it. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. And then the last one was, the guy that wrote Amazing Grace. He said, we were the apes and they were human. And I thought that was pretty powerful because, it's like, that's so true. They were totally, like, horrible animals, treating those slaves horribly and totally inhumane. And so, yeah, they were totally wrong. And they were the ones that were trying to, live their lives and protect their kids as best they could. So,
yeah. That was excellent. You picked out some super good quotes from the movie.
Yeah.
Definitely parts that inspire you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's another thing I took away, was that the movie kind of teaches you not to give up, but you have to fight a battle more than once to win it. I think about like halfway through the movie how, he was super ill, and if he had given up, then, who knows when, the anti-slave trade would have been passed.
Mm-hmm.
So he put this cause before his own life, by taking the cause up again.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to get back in there, though, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Especially with his colitis.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
It's a gut disease.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he was like, the doctors weren't really sure what it is, and I was like, oh, I'm not either, so.
Well, he said it was colitis, but I don't know if that was his only diagnosis. But colitis is a gut disease, so he'll be in the problem with that is you can't see that they're in pain. Like, you just all of a sudden, well, other than the fact that he's writhing in pain and crying out. But other than that, like, you don't see a physical ailment, you know what I mean? So, and it's all in the gut, so. Yeah.
That's unpleasant.
They call that one of the invisible diseases. Nowadays, they have to cut out part of their intestine, usually their lower intestine, and there's surgeries and different things involved with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, one of my really close friends has Crohn's and colitis, and so she's an advocate for it. So I just know all this because
I was gonna say, where did you find this information?
Yeah, she's the head of the department in San Diego, so I know enough about it, not a lot, enough about it to be able to say some things.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
That's cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything, Erin?
I just added we're still on number 9, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just I talked about, remember the educating yourself.
Oh yeah, you already did answer the Never mind. That was me.
That's all good.
All right, should we go to number 10?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, what was your understanding of the doctrine of the family at the beginning of the semester, and how has it changed? We only have 17 minutes left.
I'll go, I guess. Sorry, do you want to go?
I was just going to say, I'm going to probably play off of what you say now. But to be perfectly honest, I'm pretty sure I knew enough, like the majority of what we discussed.
Yeah, that's what I put down too. I was like, I knew pretty much everything you tried to teach me.
I mean, the thing is, I've taken family theory, I've taken child development or not child development, cognitive development through the lifespan. I've taken family advocacy, or what's that one where you have to? Well, I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, and I've taken communications classes and psychology classes, so I'm thoroughly read on the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't even think about that. I just kind of, I don't know, I guess what I put was like, my understanding, I mean, yeah, I guess now that I think about it, yeah, I totally knew all this stuff, but I guess it was like broadened, so I said, I basically, when it came down to it, thought about, specifically what's addressed in the Family Proclamation. But as we've gone on with the semester, I think that everything's kind of deep in the understanding of that. I mean, I don't know, I feel like for the doctrine of the family, like the proclamation, that is the doctrine, and it doesn't go a ton beyond that. I mean, maybe we get a little bit more specific on different things, but I feel like that's kind of like the foundation, and so I guess I just said that a lot of the stuff just brought more insights and depth to that document, and like I talked about learning more about family policy than I knew before, and like how to advocate, and I guess I talked a little bit about having a deeper understanding of the title of liberty, and how that was Moroni's way of advocating in his time. But yeah, that's funny. I can't believe I didn't think. Yeah, I knew more than I put on there. She's gonna be like, "What? Really? You didn't know?" Yeah, no, I've taken all these classes. That's funny.
No.
Yeah, I guess Reddit did get a little bit more broad, or like my knowledge was broadened a bit more. I think the biggest thing that it drove home to me, but I kind of already knew this, is how long it takes and the process that is required to get laws and policies passed. Which is why the minute you know what you want to advocate for, start right away and get as many people on board as you can, as soon as you can, because everything takes for frickin' ever.
Yeah. So
to make the biggest impact the soonest possible, the bigger the numbers and the quicker you can get things done, do it.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, no, I feel like I learned a ton this semester, but as far as like understanding the doctrine of the family, like I don't really feel like I learned anything new. I mean, I took an entire class on the Family Proclamation, so like I'm good.
Yeah.
So it was nothing new to me, but I did learn a lot, and one thing relating to the doctrine that I did learn was the importance of sharing it. There was this quote from Sister Beck. She says, "The theology of the family is based on the creation, the fall, and the atonement." And then Elder Bednar says that the eternal importance of gender and of eternal marriage can be properly understood only within the context of Heavenly Father's plan of happiness. So if we, want others to advocate for the family with us, what we really need to do is share the gospel, because that's what makes everything make sense. Because, if you want to advocate for the family, like say you don't want, same-sex marriage, you're going to have to explain why, and it's not really going to make sense unless you have the gospel to back you up. That's where everything centers in. So the gospel really gives us hope in our cause.
Yeah. I think the problem with that, though, is advocating for and trying to pass laws and policies, because we do have this freedom of religion. A lot of people have very different religions, and some don't believe in religion at all. So share your gospel as much as you can, and I'm not saying don't in any way, but I think the biggest thing is to make sure we become educated more so, because bringing in our religion into anything we advocate for, I think won't actually help us in the long run when it comes
Well,
to
it's not going to pass any
public
laws
policy.
or, yeah. No, it's definitely not going to do anything in government unless, every single person's a member of the church. But,
Yeah.
it's
So
going
if you're in
to,
Utah or Idaho,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to help
I don't
people
know.
understand why you're doing what you're doing, and I think it's going to help more people be on board with supporting the family, just having that understanding whether or not it's anything that they use in court or it's anything that they bring to, a political arena.
yeah. Yep.
All right, are we on the last question?
I think so.
Woo! Let's do this. It says, picture your spouse and children, current or future, and write down some thoughts about how they'll benefit from you taking this class.
I guess, let's see, my future spouse is going to be 6'2", with blue eyes, brown hair.
Sounds
My
dreamy.
kid, I'm going to have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and they're going to be little angels.
Perfect nuclear family.
Perfect. We're going to be rich, so because we're going to be rich, I'm going to have 4 kids. There we go. And two boys, 2 girls. And yeah. And we're going to be very active in our community. And honestly, the biggest thing that I took from this as it relates to our own personal families is illustrating by example to our kids that we are personally active in the community and also in voting and educating ourselves on laws and policies and vote and on the different politics going on in the community as well as our government. So voting on our president, but not just voting, becoming educated first, making educated decisions, and then voting. Because just voting without knowing what you're doing is bullcrap. You're just perpetuating a very wrong society. So, so becoming educated first, I think, is the first thing we should teach our kids, and then teaching to advocate for your beliefs and to move forward with that in a larger scale via government and policy, voting and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I pretty much said the exact same thing. But just, it reminds me of the video we watched about those 2 girls that were, advocating that were super young. And that's the kind of family you can have if you live by example.
Yeah. I think when you brought those 2 girls up, personally, I think you need to teach kids how to think and not what to think first. So maybe educating them and not telling them what to think, but how to think so they can develop their own ideas and thoughts and beliefs. So I think that's more important than just telling them what to think, because that's just ignorance in my opinion. They're voting for Obama just because mom and dad said to vote for Obama. It's like, no, explain to them policies, explain to them the politics and how to get to, which websites are viable and which ones are not, and stuff like that, and then research and how to and all that. Oh, crap. My laptop's going to die. And stuff like that. I think that's incredibly important to teach them, because I feel like those kids were just regurgitating information that they didn't really believe in them. Well, no, they believed in it, but really only because they were told to believe it. In my opinion, hold on, just a sec, guys. Especially because kids aren't they're not cognitively developed to have opinions that strong, developed much on their own, for the most part, but varies, of course, and it also depends on the age of the kid. Oh, crap. Huh? Another 10 minutes. Is that okay? Crap. Where did that go? Crap. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Sorry, guys. I just lost... Oh, there it is. I lost this. I have 5% battery. Just a sec, guys.
We're almost done.
Yes, I know. But I'm about to die. Okay, go ahead. I lost my train of thought anyway right now.
Well, no, I thought that was interesting what you said about the girls. I think that's actually kind of true that they maybe, that when you're a kid, you really don't have that strong of an opinion about things other than what people are telling you is right or is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I really felt bad for that second girl who just, sounded like she was.
She was just reading off the paper.
She was so little. I mean, I just felt so bad for her, that poor little kid. But I just like the idea of raising kids that, do want to have a part in the political system as far as, making an effort in their community, getting involved and voting and, like these girls obviously wanted to do.
Yeah.
I think I pretty much said the same thing. Like, so I'm married and have 2 kids, two girls that are just over a year old, and so it's like, for me, it's like, I want to teach them how, how to be a responsible citizen, and how that's, part of our calling in life is to, be responsible and to be able to vote, and like you said, be an informed voter, and that is something like I've voted in past elections, but I just feel like I don't have time to even think about the candidates. I have way too much stuff to do for school, so it's like, okay, I'm not going to vote because I don't know. I don't want to, vote blindly. So I'm like, I feel like there's a time and a season for everything under the sun. So it's like when I actually find time and can, balance everything, I just feel like everything is so crazy. It's crazy. Once you have kids, guys, it's nuts. Anyways, great, but nuts. So, anyways,
not gonna lie, I'm glad I don't have kids. Yet.
Yeah. The 2 boys and 2 girls will come someday. So.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be rich, so I'm gonna have a nanny and a cook and a
there you go.
A maid, that's what they're called.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so I think I just basically said everything you guys already talked about. But yeah, being educated and all that good stuff is really important.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. All right. Does anyone want to add anything before we go away?
Nothing that nothing that I haven't already said.
Yeah. Who wants to do the 2-minute summary? I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
I was like, there's a summary with this one?
Yeah, we're supposed to do a summary at the end. I can wait. It has to be 2 minutes. It said.
Oh no, I was joking. I was totally joking. There doesn't have to be on this one.
Okay then.
Oh, Ashley.
All right.
So I'm pretty sure it'd take half an hour to sum up like an hour and a half. Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys are awesome. I'll stop broadcasting and then I'll post it to the board.
Okay. Thank you so much.
To have access to it. Yeah. Thank you guys. Have a great night, everyone.
Yeah. You too. Have a good Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.